Good morning, all. Welcome to today's webinar. Kindly confirm whether you can hear me.
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. Welcome all. We've really joined on time. It means this webinar will be very exciting, and you're going to get insightful insights on fire safety and how we can be prepared with measures on the same risk. My name is Faith Koki in Risk Management Department at Liaison Group. And at Liaison Group, we have a risk management philosophy where we endeavor to enhance value creation and asset protection through loss prevention and cost-effective risk transfer mechanisms to our clients. We endeavor to add value to our clients so that they can be on a better position in their risk management profile. And the one way we do that is through risk awareness. And that's why we have this webinar today to ensure that we understand fire risk reduction rules and how when we implement them in our businesses, we'll be able to ensure that our fire and special peril cover, we are compliant with it, so that in event of an incident, we are compliant with the conditions and warranties in fire and special perils cover. And so that awareness is necessary to ensure that when a claim occurs, it is paid because we are compliant with the warranties and conditions in our cover. And that's why today we are going to have this webinar and risk awareness on fire safety. Today we have a speaker who is here with us already. She is the founder and principal officer of Apt Company. She has over 10 years experience as a chartered loss adjuster and chartered insurance risk manager. And she holds a master's in insurance and sustainable risk management. Currently, she is the vice chair of Institute of Loss Adjusters and Risk Surveyors. And please allow me to invite Esther Kimodo to take us through our today's webinar presentation. Welcome, Esther.
Thank you, Faith. And let me say that I'm having a good morning. I hope everybody else is having a good morning. Karibuni sana. As Faith says, I am the one taking you through this session, and I'm delighted to be doing it today. So maybe we can just roll, given that we only have 1 hour. Okay, good. I think we will start with the fire policy. It is important for us to understand what a fire policy covers before we go to the fire risk reduction goals. I believe most of us, of course, have interacted with the fire policy. And looking at it, I would say that a fire policy covers basically our assets, which include buildings, contents, and business assets against accidental damage. And the accidental damage, of course, refers to damage or destruction caused by fire or related perils, which we're also going to look at. The very first 3 items that are covered by a fire policy is accidental fire, lightning, and domestic explosion. Why we talk about domestic explosion is that there's also explosion that happens like explosion, and that is not covered under fire policy because it happens in a commercial setup. And the reason why it is not covered is because it is assumed or presumed that you should have separate cover or more specialized cover that should take care of such damage. So basically, a fire policy will initially cover the 3 that I've mentioned: accidental fire, lightning, and domestic explosion. And then now we can move on to the other perils. Yeah, the related perils or allied or associated perils that are also covered include storm, cyclone, typhoon, tempest, all those weather-related. I think people call them wet perils. I'm finding people calling them wet perils.
Strike off the names. Yeah, yeah.
And for
Dr.
me,
King,
this is
I
something
will
that
not
we
be
have
able to
currently
benefit.
we've currently been
Thanks.
experiencing. So basically, that is something I think most of you are aware. You can recall that last year we had serious flooding happening in our place, and that is actually one of the related periods of the fire. Then we have the riot, strike, civil commotion, and malicious damage. It's also something that we've seen, especially this year, and also bits of through last year, June, following the riots. We've seen damages, and insurance policies, fire insurance policies have responded with respect to the damage caused. Then we have impact damage by rail or road vehicles and animals. Damage caused by vehicles is covered, but the vehicle should not be owned or should not be owned by the insured or the employees or somebody who's working with them under contract. So basically, that is also covered. We have also aircraft damage or aerospace device and articles dropped there from. I think the most interesting thing to watch now is damage may be caused by drones, because this is quite new. I haven't come across anything as far as our market is concerned, but I think that is something to look forward to, because I have seen that things have evolved. There are these big drones that are used in agriculture and also in pharmaceutical deliveries and all that. So that is something that probably will become very exciting looking forward. Then the other peril is bursting and overflow of water tanks, apparatus, and pipes. This is very specific to water tanks. This peril. I have come across maybe incidences where other tanks, maybe containing raw materials that are not water, have burst, and people have brought in an argument of how this peril should respond. But it is very specific that the bursting and overflow should be with regards to water tanks, apparatus, and pipes. And this includes maybe even the gutters, down pipes, these flex pipes from the sinks, the washrooms. We've seen most of that happening, and the fire policy has responded positively. We also have cover for leakage from sprinkler installation, but there is an exemption because this loss only covers when it is accidental. And we are removing cover when the damage is caused during repairs to a building, or when you're extending the sprinkler installation, or if there is a defect in construction. So basically that also looks at the accidental damage to the sprinkler installation, like say maybe where a vehicle which is high drives into a parking space and impacts the sprinkler, and then it activates, and of course is lost. Then the last related peril is with regards to bushfire. Bushfire in a small scale, as you can see, it excludes damage or destruction by forest fire. I think in our market, we have not had incidences of forest fire as such. Maybe in the urban there are some bits of Mount Kenya, but in some other countries, Australia, you've seen wildfires. I think when they get to that scope of forest fire, it is regarded as a catastrophe. So basically, that is not covered under fire policy. Related, moving on now, I think I like the person who's guiding us. We are looking at exclusions. The reason why we've summarized them is because we know that most of us, of course, work with this fire policy every day. It's something we engage in. So exclusions are also maybe what I would say as a summary is that what is excluded mostly is number one, the losses that from those events that one cannot predict, like losses caused by war, nuclear risks, and deliberate acts. There is also something called fermentation, natural heating, and spontaneous combustion. Maybe just to dwell for a little bit on spontaneous combustion is where a medium self-ignites. There is no ignition, external source of ignition, but the ignition is caused by chemical decomposition. This mostly is experienced in raw materials and items like grains. We've seen that happen in maize silos. We've seen that happen in cotton storage. Basically, what guides or what should happen is that the way they are stored and say for the maize, maybe giving a practical example
This
is
is about what traced with this
what
means. So what was the general communication?
I think
From media, we use social media, but also
just a moment. Okay, fine, you can continue. Spontaneous combustion. I was talking about like grains. The temperatures when the maize is being stored for long, serious seasons, then it means that it should have dried so that the moisture in it does not self-heat, generate heat as it decomposes. So basically, when it decomposes, it can cause a fire. We've seen that happen. I think there was an incident in Nakuru a while back. Internationally, many incidents. The incidences involving spontaneous combustion. So that is specifically excluded. Pollution and contamination is excluded, but for pollution and contamination that has happened as a result of operation of an insured carrier. Maybe citing an example of if there is flooding, and as a result, of course, something happens to the water gets into a rag and develops mold and such, then that is covered. But if it just happens by itself, then of course it is excluded. Cold storage or by damage by cold storage or by change of temperature. The reason why this is excluded is because we have specific policy that it takes care of this. We have an extension and a fire policy where you find that we cover deterioration of stock as a result of failure of cold storage and change of temperature. So basically, that's the reason why it is excluded. When it comes to electrical machine apparatus from overrunning, short circuiting and related risks, this is excluded. I think for marketers, you will agree with me that we do extend this by incorporating electrical crosses, mostly 3. That is just to make sure that this bit is covered. It is no longer an exclusion. Explosion or implosion of boilers, economizers, and other vessels. This is also specifically excluded, but we have a specific boiler policy that responds to this. So that is the reason why it is excluded in a fire policy, so that you can take up a very specific policy that addresses the specific needs of the boilers and economizers. Then we also have an issue of the fire occurring when you're heating or drying. That's excluded as well. Consequential loss excluded because, of course, you buy it in as a different policy or as an extension. Expenses necessarily incurred on experts such as architects, surveyors, as well. These you also get to buy it in. Theft. We have a burglary policy which is very specific and covers the specific theft and burglary risk. earthquake, volcanic eruptions, and conversions of nature. The reason why this is an exclusion is because of the catastrophic nature. But as you very well know, we buy back uh, earthquake cover, volcanic eruptions. We have been fortunate in our market that this has not been a very serious issue, but I believe in the markets where it is rampant, people have solutions to that. So now I think now we're winding up on fire and the fire policy and the provisions, what is covered, what is not covered, unless there's a specific question on fire. Maybe I am not sure of the feeling of the people attending. We can proceed to fire risk reduction rules. Faith, you can offer a direction. You need to.
Okay, thank you, Esther. So far, so good. Kindly, if you have any question, feel free to write it on the chat box. And at the end of the presentation, our presenter will be able to respond to the questions. Thank you. You can proceed, Esther.
Okay, good. Moving on now, fire risk reduction rules. What are fire risk reduction rules? For me, these are rules that guide us, maybe probably mostly us as surveyors, as risk managers, as to what the provisions of our statutes are with respect to fire, what occupiers, actually it is very broad, it talks about occupiers, should put in place to ensure that the people therein and their assets are also safe from fire hazard. As we have summarized, fire risk reduction rules are, maybe back, yeah, are a set of regulations under the legal notice number 19, number 59, and they are set to minimize fire hazards in workplaces. They are issued under Factories and Other Places of Work Act 514. They are still under review. We haven't had any new regulation, but we're still waiting to hear from the legislators because there are few developments that have come in over the years. I think this was 2007. So that is more, it is going 20 years now. So we're looking forward to maybe a review or something. I would say that fire risk reduction rules provide guidance on various issues of fire safety. Prevention, I think there are about 8 aspects. We start with prevention, there's detection, there's suppression, evacuation, just the procedures, how property owners or occupiers of properties should conduct themselves, what they should do, what they should put in place, what they should not put in place, how they should go about their business, depending on their specific occupancies. The fire risk reduction rules also define the classes of fire. The reason why we define the classes of fire is also to establish how these classes or these categories of fire should be extinguished, or how the measures that should be put in place with regards to prevention, detection, suppression, and ensure that whatever it is, assets and the people are safe. As highlighted, you see that we're talking about class A, which involves ordinary combustible materials. Very easy. This is actually I would say the very easily spreading and the very fastest type of fire that we have, and which we can conceptualize as human beings, because it involves materials such as paper, clothes, rubber, plastics, and such. Then we have class B, which involves flammable or combustible liquids, gases, greases. You know that for a liquid for you to reach the flammable temperatures for a liquid, it will take a lot of time. So basically, it means that higher temperatures are required compared to class A. For class C, we're looking at energized electrical equipment. And this one, of course, specifically looks at the medium that is used for extinguishment, because for electrical equipment, you not look at something like water, because water is a good conductor of electricity. What will happen is that now you explore other mediums, depending on exactly where that fire is happening or whatever the type of the equipment it is. And then we have D, which is combustible metal, magnesium, potassium, and potassium. The reason why these are in class D is that they have an element of exploding, even when you are extinguishing or when they are burning. So basically, the care or the medium that should be applied is totally different from what is applied in A, B, and C. So fire risk reduction rules help us also understand these classes of fire and how we're supposed to go about it. Maybe a note, and the reason why it's put in here is to mention that fuel in purpose-built vehicles and engines are not looked at in the same way that you look at any other fuel or any other chemical in a factory, because they are in specifically built tanks that are meant to hold the type of the fuel that is therein. So moving on, maybe now we're going to look at the 8 aspects that are covered by the fire risk reduction rules. And we'll start with fire prevention. This is the very first initiative or the very first and key thing under the fire risk reduction rules of 2007. Why? Because if you are able to prevent a fire, then you will not need whatever else that measures that you have. You may have them just as a standby measure, but the thing is that it is important to start by the very, very, very initial step, making sure that the fire doesn't happen. And we have been given a lot of guidance by the rules. And they have emphasized, I think there are quite a number of points which I am going to read through and maybe even clarify where I can. They emphasize on the need for fire resistant construction in workrooms where flammable substances are used. They have talked about using concrete blocks. They are very specific about the type of block. And you can see that in some areas, they'll say for some stores, you need 115 millimeters concrete slab. You need, when it comes to glass, if you have to have windows or glass used, it has to be these millimeters. It has to have the wire mesh embedded. They talk about suitable storage tanks or closed vessels, fire resisting structures for flammable substances. They give specification on how you're going to compartmentalize your storage for substances that are capable of reacting or self-combustion. Sometimes people look at the fire risk reduction rules as concentrating more on the factory or manufacturing setup, but it is because you can as well see that most of these manufacturing or factory setups presents more hazard than a normal maybe office setup. You find that
when we were doing
you're talking about self-combustion.
I was feeling like a software engineer.
When you're doing when you're looking at the compartmentalization, you look at self-combustion, something like wet lags. In the factory, you use a lot of wet lags where you for cleaning up machines, for picking for drying the wet frost. And the wet frost may not be as a result of water, maybe some oil or chemical spills. So basically, those wet lags are also capable of self-ignition or spontaneous combustion. So you can see that the fire risk reduction rules are very specific about how you get to store them, how you store them from whatever other waste that is generated from the activity. There is also the issue of highly flammable material, how it should be kept. You may find that maybe your processes involve use of chemicals, like maybe citing an incident on a printing factory. You find that they use a lot of ink and solvents. So basically, the solvents are quite highly flammable, and depending on the ink, if it is oil-based ink, it is also highly flammable. How you get to store them, how you actually convey this flammable material into the machine, and the measures you take to contain spillage in case it happens. How you convey the raw material is very important, because some of them will definitely even generate electrostatic charges. So basically, the fire risk reduction rules give guidance as to how you will go about that. Aeration, some of these raw materials will actually generate pungent smells, and also which are toxic or even hazardous. So there's guidance provided as to how you aerate the provisions you make with regards to making sure that the rooms are well aerated, the extraction systems that should be in place to make sure that there are no flammable gases and vapors, both that can cause harm to both the people working in there, and also it can actually ignite a fire. So they also provide guidance on how to clean the workplaces. Housekeeping is very important. I think maybe just to mention, when we talk about a fire, we talk about two aspects: the human and the moral aspect. You find that the fire risk reduction rules are trying very hard to address both aspects. Physical, where you're talking about compartmentalization, physical structures, how to do things, how to store, how to deliver raw materials, and then the moral hazards as well, as addressed in how you clean the workplaces, how you remove the process material, how you store it, how you lay out the machine so that it is easily accessible for cleaning, for processes, how you lay out the electrical equipment and installation to ensure that there's no buildup of electrostatic charges, what I've mentioned, how they're inspected, how they are fitted, how you deliver power to equipment. All that is very well stipulated or outlined, and all of it is geared to make sure that you prevent a fire from happening. So basically, I think the only thing I've not mentioned the fire prevention is fire escape exits, design, and marking. They are very specific about how, and I believe even in your workplace, you already have the fire exit signage, which is actually a requirement under the fire risk reduction rules, but it's also very practical because it guides you on how to get out of a building in case there is a fire. So basically, all these are very well stated in the fire risk reduction rules, but the aim is to help prevent a fire. Then we have the second aspect, which is fire detection. When we come to fire detection, a fire will still happen even after you've prevented, even with best practices, accidents still do happen. So when a fire happens, so the first thing should be, how do we detect it? Because without detection, then it will mean that it may propagate and grow beyond what practical containing measures may be able to accommodate. So looking at it, fire detection, the workplaces have been required to put into place fire detection systems that are able to quickly identify and respond to fire incidents. According to the rules, they should be located in appropriate places, connected to audible and visual flashing devices. Key components, this is actually just a summary to highlight what you look at in fire detection systems. You have smoke detectors. I think you should be having those in your offices, and I have given details of what they are made of. They use ionization of photoelectric sensors to detect smoke particles. We have heat detectors. These activate when a specific temperature threshold is reached, either at a fixed temperature or based on the rate of temperature increase. Flame detectors. These use sensors to detect the presence of flames, often used in industrial settings or areas with open flames. And then we have the fire alarm control panel. This is a central unit that receives signals from the detectors. All these detectors we're talking about, smoke, heat, and flame. And it activates audible and visual alarms and potentially triggering other safety systems. The fire alarm control panel may be connected to the maybe sprinkler unit, where if it triggers the system, the sprinkler unit, and it activates it, and so the fire is contained in good time. We have talked about conventional and addressable systems, where actually it's just a bit trying to categorize these fire detection systems. Conventional systems use zones to group detectors, while addressable systems can pinpoint the exact location of a fire. So depending on your occupation, I believe where you're in a very hazardous occupation, you need an addressable system which can pinpoint the exact location so that you're able to act as fast as is practically possible instead of looking at a zone. Maybe moving on to the third element, which is maybe we're just talking about the detection, how they go about it, and the importance. Let me delve more on the importance of fire detection systems. Number one is that they provide early warning, which allows timely evacuation and response. They minimize danger by, of course, when you act very fast, definitely you contain the fire in good time, and then they ensure safety in buildings and they protect the occupants. Maybe you can go to the third aspect, which is fire suppression. Fire risk reduction rules 2007 also mandate the provision of fire extinguishers and other firefighting equipment with ensuring they are properly mounted and accessible. The rules are very specific about how you should mount extinguishers, how high, I think, how high on the wall, exactly where, so that they are easily accessible. They also mention about the signage that should accompany the extinguisher to make it easily identifiable. They also talk about the types of extinguishers that should be mounted at the same place. So they are very, very specific and provide very good guidance. Even as we talk about fire suppression and fire extinguishers and other equipment, we also talk specifically about those that respond automatically. Because I know we are so used to the ones that will require human intervention, like and maybe we are going to mention them at number 4. But for the suppression, we're talking about engineered systems that automatically detect and extinguish fire. These will mostly use agents like gas, foam, or chemicals rather than relying solely on water like the traditional sprinkler system. And they are quite crucial in minimizing damage and risk in areas where water-based systems might be unsuitable, such as server rooms or kitchens. They play a vital role in safety, offering early detection and swift action to control or extinguish fires before they escalate. Basically, none of these acts in isolation. When you talk about fire detection, most of the systems you find that the fire detection system is also connected to a suppression system, so that it ensures maximum efficiency. So how fire suppression systems work is by integrating various components that detect fire and trigger the release of a suppression agent. And the process involves, of course, early detection, alarm activation, and release of the agent, depending on what it is, a gas, foam, or chemical. As I've mentioned, these are very, very critical for server rooms and areas that are not easily habited, where you find that, and that are, I should say that where water may not act, serve as a very good medium, not really class A fires, maybe class B fires. So this is where suppression comes in, and also very, very critical operation areas where you find that you need a very, very fast response, and maybe humans may not offer that. Maybe going to the next slide. So I have highlighted the types of fire suppression systems. Clean agents being one of them, which uses agents that are non-toxic and electrically non-conductive. We have inert gas, where you use nitrogen or argon to reduce oxygen levels. As you know, in the fire triangle, we require oxygen, a fuel, and the medium that's burning. And then we have the foam systems, where we use foam agents. And these are common in industrial settings, depending on the materials or whatever is burning. Chemical systems, which are used to disrupt the chemical chain reaction of fire as well, suppressing it. And then we have the water-based systems. This one, we are looking at something like the sprinkler system, which incorporates specialized nozzles and the river water to minimize the damage. Benefits of fire suppression systems, I think very close to what we looked at, is that you ensure early fire detection and suppression, which ensures that the fire is suppressed in the very early stages and it minimizes damage and risk. Protection of sensitive equipment, such as the valuable electronic equipment from water damage, depending on the medium that is installed, and then reduce downtime, because of course, the moment a suppression system acts fast, means the fire dies quickly. So basically, the damage is minimal and the disruption is also minimal. Enhanced safety. What happens is that you're looking at a system that does not involve a lot of human intervention. So basically, the exposure to humans or the human element to the accidents during the extinguishment is minimal. So I think those are the advantages of having a fire suppression system. Number 4, which is also a key thing and looked at by the fire risk reduction rules, is firefighting equipment. These are, I would say, most of what we used to, firefighting equipment. It is actually one of the last line response, I should say, because we talked about fire. We started with prevention, we went to detection, then we suppression, and now we're looking at fighting. So fighting, I talk about fighting, it is more physical. It appears quite physical. It is like your last line of defense. So the occupier is also supposed to provide sufficient means of extinguishing fire at workplace, which should be distinctively and conspicuously marked and easily accessible. When we talk about firefighting equipment, mostly referring to the portable extinguishers, carbon dioxide. We have carbon dioxide, water, and we have foam that are handled the cylinders that you can carry along with you. I think there are 3 kg. You have 3 kg, 6 kgs, and 9 kgs. These should be tested. The cylinders should be tested and maintained by competent persons annually with specific tests given a timeline. The fire risk reduction rules are very specific about how you test the cylinders and when you test the cylinders, how you check, because either the cylinders, the firefighting equipment should be inspected every half yearly, and that is also very specific. In the course of our surveys, we also check to confirm that firefighting equipment has been inspected as is required and by competent people. The other thing is that there is a requirement to provide adequate water storage dedicated for firefighting. It is capped at 10,000 liters, and there should be means of lacing the water to the highest point of workplace in event of fire. There should be provided a pump or pumping facilities that are able to deliver water to the highest point. This has been a matter of concern because when we talk about 10,000 liters, it may be appropriate for a small and medium-sized operation, but when you go to the major operations, then you may require to do the actual computation to get to the right amount of water that should be reserved for firefighting capacity to be adequate. So for me, I would say that it is something that we keep advising on during our surveys. It is something that we keep mentioning. It is something that we have maybe implemented in our markets. Like for Makuti roofs, we have had our clients maybe implement this requirement by having a portable pump that is able to deliver water to the highest point of the Makutis. Makuti roofs are quite lofty because we realized that Makuti fires, or the fires involving Makuti property, spread quite fast because the embers are able to move from one building to another, and once they patch on the next, then it's very hard for you to contain that fire. So basically, it's a good measure to have. We've looked at the 4 very critical requirements. I'll still keep going back: prevention, detection, suppression, and firefighting equipment. And again, the fires happened. You have to look at how do you get your people safely out of the place, because at the end of the day, life is more important than whatever other assets that you have. So basically, the fire reduction, risk reduction rules are also very clear about evacuation procedures and emergency plans that should be put in place, including designated escape routes, assembly points, measures. I think I made a mistake there. And they're also very specific about access to suitable outlets and exits and all other emergency exits. As I mentioned there before, I know even in your offices, you have the signage showing how you exit. I believe you also have an emergency assembly point designated. I don't know whether Faith has been able to mention like the reason why you have it, or it has been communicated to you, but it is important to know where you assemble, because once you assemble, it's when a head count is done, just to ensure that everybody is there, has been able to get out of the building safely, and is accounted for, including visitors. The fire risk reduction rules are also very clear about training, which is our 6th aspect. They require that fire safety training for employees on safe use of firefighting appliances, including establishment of firefighting teams to inspect the workplace, put in place, The firefighting teams should also identify fire hazards and propose remedial measures, conduct fire drills, and investigate fire incidences, also coordinating evacuation in event of fire. Maybe during question and answer, I'll be looking forward to hear whether you've been conducting fire drills. You should be conducting an annual fire drill, the most basic one fire drill at the workplace. The other aspect is on storage of flammable substances. This is quite very broad, I must say, and the summary that I've put in is with regards to the specific guidelines that are provided for the storage of flammable materials, including how you separate or you compartmentalize incompatible substances and making sure that you maintain appropriate clearances. You are also supposed to post appropriate signage that shows hazardous and non-hazardous goods, the flammables and all that. There is all that signage, and as even on the storage facilities access doors, you're supposed to post that signage so that people are aware that when I'm getting into this room, maybe I need to wear this kind of protective equipment like a mask, depending on what medium or what material is kept. If it's a flammable material, this is how I'm supposed to handle it. Yeah. So moving on to the last aspect that is handled or addressed under the fire risk reduction rules is electrical safety. The rules are very clear about how electrical equipment and installations must be laid out. They have mentioned that they should be properly earthed or double insulated, depending on the operation. Spark-proof fixtures are required in areas with flammable materials. We have the right fittings for lighting fittings for flammable areas or even moisture operation areas with moisture, so that they're able to cope with whatever activities that are happening. When it comes to electrical safety, there's also a requirement to inspect, to have the electrical installation inspected by a competent electrical technician twice annually, which is something we also get to follow up every time we do site visits. Electrical safety also looks at how equipment is guarded to ensure that it is well protected, both from dust, spillages, and also making sure that it's guarded so that the people or the human element working on it is safe. I think for me, with regards to the fire risk reduction rules, you can see that there's a big element that is addressing the aspect that of course the fire we cover under the fire policy. What the rules try to do is to, number one, prevent a fire from happening, and in case as a result of whatever accident the fire occurs, trying to make sure that it is well contained and it does not spread as far as is practically possible. In addition to the rules, we have something called occupational safety and health. Remember, I mentioned that we have two elements to look at. We have the human element and we have the physical. Our fire risk reduction rules will address both physical and human aspects. But I also say that we have the Occupational Safety and Health Act, which is very specific about the human aspect. I decided to include a short slide on this, just for your awareness that we have an Occupational Safety and Health Act of 2007, we call it OSHA, and related legal notices like LN number 31 of 2004, which are in place and they concern the safety at workplace. and this with regards to safety committees, and they complement the fire risk reduction rules by addressing broader workplace safety concerns such as machinery safety. This involves safe use of machines, transmission, hoist and lifts, steam boilers, and air receivers, refrigeration plant examination and testing. What probably maybe this to summarize what the OSHA or OSHA Act or OSHA Act intends to achieve is a safe working place by highlighting what rules that govern or regulations that govern how transmission, hoist, and lift, steam boilers, and air receivers, refrigeration plants should be installed, should be maintained, should be inspected to ensure safety at the workplace. Handling of vessels containing dangerous liquids and chemicals. Also the safety, how do you transport, how do you handle, how do you label and classify and store? Safe use of landers and other lifting equipment. We have regulations as to working at height, which is also something we look at because I know besides the fire policy, we have the WIBAs, and these aspects come into play. We have how to address air pollution, noise, and vibration, how to make sure that we minimize the hazards that come out of this. Ergonomics at workplace, how people work, the seating arrangements, the minimum the minimum gangway sizes, who should work standing, who should work the period for sitting, the breaks in between, supply of drinking water, washroom facilities, sitting, and all safe means of access, evacuation, and first aid. And we also have aspects such as health and safety and welfare, to train your people, how you train your people, how you induct your people, how you provide protective clothing and when they should be replaced, appliances, also when you should conduct health and safety audits, the trainings on first aid, formation of committees that we look at these aspects, both health and safety and first aid, and assess the risks at the workplace. Maybe I've also talked, I've mentioned first aid, and also provision of first aid kits and what should be contained in a first aid kit. And maybe in summary, what I'll say is that fire risk reduction rules and OSH Act helps or is geared towards making our workplaces safe, is geared towards making, and when you talk about safety now, we're also looking at incidences such as fire, which is what we are ensuring. Besides that, WIBA, making sure that our business continue thriving by ensuring that these risks or these hazards are handled, contained even before they get to happen. I think we can move to the next slide. Yeah. Maybe to summarize, what I'll say is that we talked about prevention. By preventing, we want to eliminate. This triangle shows the hierarchy, how you go about eliminating the hazard at the workplace, both with respect to fire and health and safety. The very first of priority should be eliminating. You should make sure that if something, if a hazard, if an operation, if an area of operation, or if a machine exposes the operations to a fire or to the possibility of an accident happening, the very first thing is to think about eliminating that part of the process. Is it possible for you to eliminate it? If it is not, then we go down to the substitute. How can we make sure that, fine, we still have this part of the process, but it is safer? What measures can we put in place? And then that may involve redesigning certain processes or certain actions, just thinking around it and coming up with a better way of doing things. And then you talk about educating the safety. Now, talking to your people, the trainings we've talked about, the risk assessments we've talked about, just to make sure that people are aware of what actions they need to do. Say when we're looking at the stage that we could call the not the prevention. No, we build prevention as suppression. We're talking about fighting, the firefighting stage. Now, to educate your people about how to go about the firefighting on the appliances available, where they should be applied, because of course, if it's an electrical fire, you cannot use a water-based portable extinguisher. How to evacuate in case there's a fire and all that. And then you encourage personal change. I have mentioned moral hazard a few times because in my many years of engagement in both in claims and risk management, I've learned that we should not ignore moral aspect. The human aspect is actually very, very key. You may find that we have defective physical facilities, but when we have a responsive human element, we will be able to mitigate many of the exposures that may be there. And if we may have very efficient physical facilities, but when we have a deficient human element, not working with the available physical facilities, you can be sure that the exposures will be higher. So for me, we can proceed to the next slide, and maybe you can click on housekeeping, which will tend to summarize most of what I have been talking about. Click on housekeeping, there's a video to play. Click on housekeeping. Is this coming through?
Just give me a minute, I sort it out.
Okay, okay. So maybe as we wait for the video to play, we can remain open for questions. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Esther, for that wonderful presentation. I know now we are much equipped on fire safety, and we have an understanding of the fire reduction rules. I can see the video is up, so let's watch.
No, it doesn't have an audio on my side.
put you in harm's way. Tripping hazards from cords, tools, or debris on the floor. Struck by
Um, I think you can proceed with the Q&A because of the audio issues on my end with the
Okay.
video. Then please let's proceed with the Q&A. I've shared the link of the video in the chat.
All right. Okay. Just about the video is just a summary of the things we've talked about, the exposures that we have at the workplace. It may be that it looks at a factory and construction setup, which may not be what we are in, but that is the kind of business we are in insurance. Those are our clients. So basically for me, it was meant to just bring whatever we've discussed to life. And I hope that you're going to get a moment to watch it. I think the last slide was on what benefits we derive when our clients are able to implement or are aware of the fire risk reduction rules. One I would say is that we are able to prevent fires from happening, and we have this awareness of potential hazards, and the put in place mitigation measures to reduce exposures. They are able to exercise reasonable due care. Remember, it is actually a condition in our policies that the client should act as if they are not insured. So basically, they're able to do that, and they are from the point of being well informed. We also look at a situation where there is a likelihood of a fast claim turnaround due to availability of records required to determine liability and support claim in cases of fire. Because the fire risk reduction rules and the OSHA Act have been able to come up very specifically and require the clients to maintain certain records, which even for us when you're doing risk surveys come up very handy, because when a client presents their fire audit reports, their health and safety audit reports, you're able to, within a very short period, determine and see the measures that are there, the recommendations that have been made in the past, and determine the gaps that are there. Also, maybe the last one, which is very important for us, is that we are able to negotiate better terms with the underwriters, because, of course, you can show that our client has been able to put in place these measures, the suppression systems. I know that has been a very major issue in the industry, because that's what, even when we go back to the reinsurers, we look at. They want to know what exactly is being put in place to mitigate. And maybe for that, you may be able to negotiate some concession with regards to the terms that have been put in place. Basically, I am coming to the end of my presentation. I am hoping that we leave more enlightened on what our regulations have for us and how they are helping us become better people and adopt better practices. Thank you very much for allowing me to present to you. As Faith mentioned, my name is Esther Kimodo. I work with APT Insurance Adjusters and Loss Control Engineers Limited. We are doing a lot of claims, property claims, and risk surveying. And I remain open for questions.
Thank you very much, Esther, for that wonderful presentation. As I mentioned, I know now we are better positioned in fire safety, even in our businesses and even in our homes, and we are going to implement. So we will share the record and the presentation, and for us to go through it and also check in our risk management cycle, where is the gap and where do we need to improve from fire prevention up to training, where at what cycle in the risk management we need to improve. So thank you very much for attending the webinar. We will share the link and the presentation. And thank you, Esther, once again for that wonderful presentation.
All right.
Bye all.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.